Okay, a little bit about me. I am a 40-year-old white male, as you can tell. Did about 17 years total service time between reserves and the National Guard and active duty. First openly admit my reserve and guard time was less than desirable as far as performance goes, but I didn't feel like they were in it to win it. You know, people wanted to sit around and watch football games and drink beer in a cantina rather than do drill type stuff as far as I was concerned. However, on active duty, I do have a sterling record. September 11th came about, towers fell, like lots of Americans. I got very, very angry. I always said when I left the reserve and the guard that if they bring it to my home soil, then I'll go ahead and I'll do my part in defense of my nation, which is exactly what I did. The 11th came about on October 10th of 2001. I signed my contract and I was gone to Fort Sam Houston in, I believe it was February, if memory serves me correctly. So that's how I came to be on active duty and a part of this new conflict, new generation of military. Now, like lots of folks, when I joined the service this last time after the 11th, I wanted to go kick some ass and take some names. I was mad. People would come to my country, you know, they'd invaded my bubble, if you will. America, you know, land of the free, home of the brave, you know. And that means something. There's a certain value system and a way of life that we all perceive that we should be able to live in a certain manner. And I had no issue going to defend that, like many others. I was a medic. I went to do my job as a medic and make sure that my brothers and sisters got the best care that I could possibly give them. And that's what I did my best to do. I was on what they call a SPIT commando team on the ground my first time, 05-06. Did 13 months. It was an eye-opening experience. Essentially, they took conventional forces and stuffed them into a non-conventional role. So I got the joy of living with an Iraqi battalion over in Murthana Airfield in eastern Baghdad for 13 months, and it was quite an experience. I'm here to tell you, you know, I didn't understand anything about the Middle East. I didn't understand anything about their culture, the way things go, and you know, it was an eye-opening experience, and it was a life-altering experience. Just the cultural shock in and of itself was enough to make you scratch your head and wonder. You know, I went over there and I didn't care who they were. I hated them all. So my first time out, like I said, I was on the ground in Baghdad. We did lots of people call door kicking, you know, cordon searches, HVTs, high value targets, things of that nature. Essentially going and waking people up at 3 o'clock in the morning by kicking in their doors and dragging whoever the target was out of their house. You know, imagine that. I don't know if you have any idea of what it's like to be inside of some of the structures over there, but they're tight, they're narrow, they smell. You know, the infrastructure is totally annihilated over there, so therefore there's no, you know, there's no AC, there's no proper hygiene for bathing for them and things of that nature. Not easily anyhow. You know, trash litters the streets. People use their rooftops as toilets. It's just a very eye-opening experience. And it's a confusing one. You know, when you are on a stack and you follow those guys that go through after they breach that doorway and you're, you know, muddling down these halls, you could be under NVGs, night vision goggles, you know, or you could have nothing at all on and you're relying on the ambient light. It's organized chaos at its finest, folks. You know, there's flashbang and gunpowder residue going off from people discharging their weapons or trying to stun and, you know, render the enemy or the potential enemy unresponsive to an extent. People are screaming and hollering. Not only your guys, you know, shouting orders and directions as to go this way or that way or grab this one or that one and rounding people up, but it's just chaos. The sights, the smells, you know, the sounds, and that all sticks with you after a while. So we'll build on that some more, but there's a reason why I'm telling you this. We'll see as we go here. So my second deployment was in 2008, and it was a 15-month deployment. This time around, I'd come home from my first one on a Spit Sea and was all excited. You know, I wanted to be special forces because I got to work with some operators from different contractors to some of our own, you know, elite forces, if you will. And that was exciting to me, to see the camaraderie that they had in their units, to see the way they functioned, you know, the way they moved around, the equipment that they were able to have access to, the freedom of movement that they had. They had a goal, and every time that I was ever around them, they achieved that goal rather rapidly in most cases. It was impressive. I wanted to do it. Unfortunately, I never even made it to selection. Came home to Fort Lewis, which is where I was stationed at the time, after my first deployment, and I got released. I'd go train with the Special Forces guy on the compound there, and after some CrossFit training, I messed my shoulder all up, supraspinatus and labrum, so that was out of the question for me. However, I'd called in 9 lines, dust off, as a flight medic, because I couldn't do SF. I was too injured for that. I got picked up in Fort Riley, 2-1 GSAB or CAB, however you want to look at it, with 1st Infantry Division, and it was an eye-opening experience there for me, that's for sure. You know, I reported down and got made FSMT2, Forward Support Medical Team Sergeant, or Team Sergeant, and got stationed up in the north of Kirkuk. Now, before we left, you know, most folks go ahead and they go to Flatiron, they go down to Fort Rucker down in Alabama. You know, they get aircrew training, they get a little bit more aeromedical training, if that's what you want to call it. I, however, did not get that. Pretty much my entire life I've learned through the School of Hard Knocks. I'm a little strong-headed. I've always been that way. I've always been somebody who's opinionated. You know, that's not just because of, you know, PTSD and TBI and all those great things. And I've always had a strong core value system that I don't really care who you are. If I was in uniform and I had to present myself in a professional manner, you were still going to get the point that I disagreed with it, or whatever the case may be. So I report to Fort Riley. I get about 20 hours in the back of an aircraft. I didn't go to Flatiron. I didn't go to Fort Rucker. You know, I didn't get any specialized training other than the guys who had already been there and done that. And these guys have been there and done it for a long time. Just phenomenally, exceptionally capable personnel. It was unbelievable. But anyhow, like I said, I got about 20 hours in a Black Hawk of OJT, and we deployed. And then I ended up in Kirkuk as the team sergeant, and eventually about halfway through deployment, R&R time rolled around, and I'd be made the platoon sergeant for the flight company, and I'd go down to Tikrit, down in Spiker down there, down to Saddam's hometown. And that was an interesting experience in and of itself.